This phone booth on the shore of Lake Vättern in Sweden will ring at exactly 3:17 a.m. And if you answer, the voice on the other end will recite your deepest secrets before you can even say hello. It sits by the water, a square of glass and metal that looks like any other. The first time it rang, no one was there. The second time, a fisherman answered, his breath visible in the cold night air. The voice spoke his name instantly, as if it had been waiting for him. The voices answer, but they are not who you called. In 1994, a ferry named the Vättern Queen set sail from the eastern shore. It carried 47 passengers and crew. By midnight, it had vanished. No distress call crackled over the radio, no wreckage washed ashore, and no bodies were ever found. Official records say the ferry never existed, as if it had been erased from history. But the phone booth remembers. It remembers the way the waves lapped against the hull, and the exact moment the lake swallowed them. It appeared overnight in 1996, bolted to a concrete slab near the water. Locals say it rings at 3:17 a.m., the exact minute the ferry sank. The first person to answer was a woman walking her dog. She heard a child crying, the sound raw and painful. Then a man's voice, barely a whisper, recited coordinates that matched the last known position of the Vättern Queen. When she hung up, the call log showed a number that did not exist. It was impossible. The phone has no dial tone, no buttons work, and the cord does not connect to anything. Yet when it rings, the receiver is always warm, as if someone just set it down. A journalist from Stockholm drove out in 2002 to investigate. He waited until 3 a.m., the lake black and still beside him. When the phone rang, he answered on the first ring. A woman's voice said, "You are late." He asked who she was. She recited his home address, his wife's name, and the birth date of his son. Details no stranger should know. Then she said, "Tell them we are still here." The line went dead. When he checked the call log, it showed a 20-digit number. The journalist tried to call it back, but there was only silence. But wait, the strangest part is what happens if you stay on the line too long. A local mechanic named Eric answered in 2008, his fingers numb from the cold. The voice on the other end was his brothers, who drowned in a boating accident when they were kids. Eric had not thought about that day in years, but the voice described it all. It told the exact spot where the boat capsized and the bright orange color of the life jacket. It described the way the water burned in Eric's lungs. Then the voice said, "You have to come get me." Eric hung up, his breath coming in ragged gasps. The next morning, he found his brother's old pocket knife on the phone booth floor. The blade rusted from years underwater, and that is when it changed. Eric went back the next night, his stomach twisted with dread. The phone rang at 3:17 right on time. This time he did not answer. He waited, his heart pounding. The ringing stopped. Then, slowly, the receiver lifted itself off the hook, as if an invisible hand were guiding it. A voice, not from the phone, but from the lake itself, whispered, "Me." The words slithered through the air, wrapping around him like cold water. Eric ran and never went back. But for weeks after, he would wake up at 3:17 a.m. to the sound of water dripping in his kitchen. Here is the question no one can answer. If the ferry never existed, why does the phone booth remember it? Why do the voices know things they should not? And why does the call log always show the same impossible number? A researcher from Uppsala University tried to solve the mystery in 2015. She brought recording equipment, cameras, and a team of students. They camped by the phone booth for a week, their tents flapping in the wind. Nothing happened. Then, on the 7th night, the phone rang. The researcher answered, her voice steady despite the chill. The voice on the other end was hers, but older and tired. It said, "You should not be here." The line went dead. When she checked the recording, There was nothing but suffocating silence. But the camera told a different story. In the footage, the phone booth door swings open at 3:17 a.m. A figure steps out, a woman in a 1990s-era raincoat, her face blurred. She walks toward the lake, her steps slow, then vanishes into the mist. The researcher's hands shook as she rewound the tape. The figure was not in any other frame. It was as if she had stepped out of time itself. And that is the moment everything unraveled. The researcher returned to Uppsala, but she could not stop thinking about the phone booth. She went back alone a month later, her car packed with equipment. This time, she did not wait for the phone to ring. She picked up the receiver and dialed the impossible number from the call log. The line connected instantly. A man's voice said, "You are early." She asked who he was. He said, "You know who I am." Then he recited her mother's maiden name, the street she grew up on, and the name of her first pet. The researcher hung up, her breath coming in short gasps. When she looked at the call log, it showed her own number. She never published her findings, quit her job, and moved to another city. But every night at 3:17 a.m., her phone rings. No caller ID. When she answers, she hears the sound of water, distant and endless, like the lake is calling her back. So here is the final piece of the puzzle. The phone booth does not just call the dead, it calls the living too. And once you answer, it never really lets you go. The line stays open, even when you hang up. The voices linger in your mind, their whispers echoing in the quiet moments when you are alone. The phone booth is a bridge between worlds, a place where the past and present collide. And it is always listening. Comment yes or never.